Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, The Atrocities of King Kamsa. Text number 30. Akarnya Bhartur Gaditam Akarnya Bhartur Gaditam Tam Ujur Deva Shatravaha Tamuchurdeva Shatravaha Devan Prati Krita Amarsha Devan Prati Krita Amarsha Daiteya Na Ati Kovidaha Daiteya Nati Kovidaha Akarnya Bhartur Gaditam Tamuchurdeva Shatravaha Devan Pratikritamarshā Daiteyānāti Kovidaha. Nāti Kovidaha Akarnya Bhartur Gaditam Tamochurdeva Shatravaha Devan Pratikritamarshā Daiteyānāti Kovidaha Akarnya Bhartur Gaditam Tamochurdeva Shatravaha Devan Pratikritamarshā Daiteyānāti Kovidaha. Akarnya, after hearing Bhartuhu of their master, Gaditam, the words or statement, Tamuchuhu, replied to him, Devashatravaha, all the asuras who were enemies of the demigods, Devan, the demigods, Prati, toward, Krita Amarshaha, who were envious, Daiteyaha, the asuras, na, not, Atikovidaha, who are very expert in executing transactions. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. After hearing their master's statement, the envious asuras, who were enemies of the demigods and were not very expert in their dealings, advised Kamsa as follows. Please repeat this translation after me. After hearing their master's statement, the envious asuras, who were enemies of the demigods and were not very expert in their dealings, advised Kamsa as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. there are two different types of men, the asuras and the suras. Dvau bhuta sargau lokesmin daiva asura evacha. Vishnu bhakta smruto daiva asurastad viparyayaha. Those who are devotees of Lord Vishnu, Krishna, are suras or devas, whereas those who are opposed to the devotees are called asuras. Devotees are expert in all transactions. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunaistatra samasate suraha. Therefore, they are called kovida, which means expert. Asuras, however, although superficially showing expertise in passionate activities, are actually all fools. They are neither sober nor expert. Whatever they do is imperfect. Moghasha mogha karmanaha. According to this description of the asuras given in Bhagavad Gita, this is given in 9th chapter, 12th verse. Whatever they do will ultimately be baffled. It was such persons who advised Kamsa because they were his chief friends and ministers. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatare. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Leela is unfolding. Shukadeva Goswami is narrating this Krishna Leela in detail on the request of Parikshit Maharaj. And it begins with the background for Krishna's appearance. And Shukadeva Goswami in detail goes on to describe the birth of Lord Krishna. So Krishna has taken birth. He has been safely transferred from the prison in Mathura, Kamsa's prison, the prison house in Kamsa's palace, where Devaki and Vasudeva were arrested. And Kamsa was cheated that by the arrangement of Yogamaya, that the 8th child of Devaki was a daughter, not a son. The first 6 children born of Devaki were all sons. Kamsa naturally would have thought the 8th child from whom there is danger for his life, he would expect that that 8th child also would be a son. Because the prophecy did not say the 8th son of Devaki. Prophecy said the 8th embryo, 8th child. Ashtama Garbha. Garbha means the child who is taking birth from the womb of the mother. So it's an Ashtama Garbha. So this was all purposely done. Ashtama Garbha, not Ashtama Putra. So Kamsa was kept in the dark about the gender of the eighth child. These are all finer things in Krishna Lila. So many finer things are there. You have learned to appreciate them. You get more and more interested in the details of this pastimes of Krishna which are unfolding. Why should we be interested in the details? It's because simply by learning about Krishna, knowing about Krishna, you become liberated completely from the cycle of birth and death. A Mahakumbha Mela is going on. So many people from all over the world are congregating in that holy place, Prayagraj. So, what are they going there for? They want moksha, they want liberation. Now, certainly, those who go there and take a bath in that Triveni Sangama, the confluence of the three rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. Simply by taking bath, they are guaranteed liberation. Now, in the scriptures, many places it is said how one can get liberation. Somebody may wonder that so many different places it is said you can get liberation by this, by that, by so many different things. People don't understand, first of all, what is liberation. So be clear about what is liberation. If you carefully study Bhagavad Gita, you'll understand what is liberation. Liberation means again the definition from the Bhagavad Gita of liberation. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti. Saha Arjuna. Krishna is telling Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, those who know, Veti, one who understands, one who knows, one who learns about Janma Karma Cha Me, my birth and my activities. Divyam are all transcendental. And what kind of knowledge about Krishna's birth and activities being transcendental? Tattvataha, in truth, 100% reality, fact. Such a person, tyaktva deham, after giving up the present body, that means at the time of death, death is when we give up this body. Tyaktva deham punarjanmanaiti, does not take birth again in this material world. Punarjanmanaiti. Before that, Krishna had told Arjuna, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvan janma mritasya cha. Ordinarily, for common people who have taken birth in this material world, all of us, all the created beings, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. Death is certain. Dhruva means a fact. established fact, 100% true. If somebody has taken birth in this material world, they have to die. But Krishna says, Tyaktva deham, at the time of death or after quitting this body, punarjanmanaiti. There is no rebirth. Punarjanma, no rebirth. Whereas in the previous verse, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuho, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. As much as it is a 100% fact that those who take birth in this material world are certainly going to die. And for one who dies, mritam, janma, dhruvam, janma, mritasya cha. It is a fact. The truth is that after quitting this body, one is going to again take birth in this material world. And just the opposite, Krishna is telling, not for ordinary persons, for those who are devotees, those who, in truth, in fact, properly learn, understand, have the knowledge, acquire this knowledge about Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti. One who understands the transcendental nature of Krishna's birth and activities. Tyaktva deham punarjanmanaiti. Unlike ordinary people who after death are going to take birth again in this material world, such persons who learn, understand, know about Krishna, they will not take birth again. Punarjanmanaiti. And what happens to them if they don't take birth? Mameti. Instead of taking birth in this material world, they come back to me. They come to me. Mameti means they come to me. And where is Krishna? In the spiritual world, in his personal abode. In his personal abode. So, instead of taking birth in this material world, they go to Krishna Loka. They are transferred by Krishna to his personal abode, not to take birth again, ever again in this material world. This is liberation. This is liberation. So, liberation doesn't mean that sometimes liberation is thought of as I don't die. But Bhagavad Gita explains death means death of the body. Death doesn't mean death of the real you. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. For you as spirit soul, there is no birth, there is no death. That is your spiritual nature. Just like Krishna's birth and activities are all transcendental, spiritual. So Krishna also has no birth and death, material birth and death. Krishna also does not have. We also don't have. But then, how is it that we have taken birth? And what is the meaning of that taking birth? That is, the birth in a material body. Taking birth means birth in a material body. And this material body is described as filled with so many miseries. Dukkhalayam. That's the nature of the material existence, filled with miseries. And 4 fundamental miseries. There are so many types of miseries. So there are many miseries, there are different types of miseries. Of all these types of miseries, Bhagavad Gita says 4 fundamental miseries. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Dosha, Anudarshanam. Repeatedly you will be facing dukkha, you'll be experiencing dukkha due to these 4 conditions of material existence. Janma, Mrityu, death, birth, death, disease, Vyadhi, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, old age. So these 4 conditions, one keeps on anudarshanam, repeatedly experiencing dukkha, dosha. Also, it is a defect of material existence itself. We don't recognize this generally. That if there is a misery, you think this misery is an unnatural, unusual, temporary thing. I can get rid of this misery and be happy ever after. When we were children, we used to read something called fairy tales. So in the fairy tales, the general ending is somebody had some difficulty or danger or misery or dukkha, and then that misery is gone, dukkha is gone, then such a person lived happily ever after. But that's not the real truth. That is just in the fairy tale. It is simply a fictitious account. The reality is, jatasya hi dhruvam mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. This janma and mrityu both are miseries, and they are also defects. Misery, everybody understands, yes. But how are they defects? Defect means the very nature of material existence is you cannot avoid the dukkha accompanying birth or associated with death by some material adjustment. You can never do that. So, all material attempts at solving these fundamental problems of birth, death, disease, old age will be a failure. That we should understand. Because it's the very nature of this material existence that it has got this defect of janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. On the other hand, spiritual life means no birth, punarjanma, naiti. Of course, punarjanma means rebirth, but punarjanma also means no birth at all in that context. No birth at all in this material world. And if there is no birth, there is no death. Death is only because of birth. So, liberation means no material body, no birth in a material body. Instead, one revives his or her spiritual form. We don't say spiritual body because body refers to this material covering. So, spiritual form, swarupa. Rupa means form. Swarupa means the spiritual form, original spiritual form. That is revived when we come to this state of transcendental knowledge. understanding. So, liberation means uh, becoming free from the repetition of birth and death by becoming devotee and thereby being transferred to Krishna's personal abode in the spiritual world. Now, this transfer is not like a physical transfer. It is not a physical transfer because uh, there is no material body to be transferred. There is no material thing to be transferred. Liberation is a change of consciousness. Because we are eternal, we have no real death. Soul doesn't die. You don't die. I don't die. The real person within the body doesn't die. But for liberation, since anyway you don't die, why should you bother about death of the body? Oh, there is a problem with this death of the body if you don't change your consciousness to Krishna consciousness. Those who don't purify their consciousness, they have to again enter another material body for another term of suffering. The defective life, material existence. They have to again, punarjanma. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jathare shayanam. Ye samsare bahudustare. Shankaracharya says, this samsara, this place where there's repetition of birth and death, samsara, why it's called samsara? The essence of material existence is punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Again and again, birth and death. And birth, many people don't know birth is a misery. That we understand from the third canto of the Bhagavatam. Of course, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna just mentions it as a misery, fundamental misery. But in Bhagavatam, it is explained in detail how it is a misery, birth in this material world. At least in the human form of life, 9 months we have to be in the mother's womb. And it's not a very pleasant place to be in, even though it is the most congenial place for developing this body, new body, for getting this new body, for fabrication of this new body. The mother's womb is the safest, the best place. It is actually Maya Devi's factory for producing this body. This body has to be fabricated. So, in that place, which is most congenial for development of our body, the experience is not very pleasant. Experience is not very pleasant. Just like there are factories where let's say, some material, a product is fabricated, is made, is produced. Now, the conditions in the factory under which the nice thing is produced, looking nice, or some nice product for our convenience, may not be very congenial. Factory, there will be pollution, there will be smoke, there will be noise, there will be so many chemicals being used, etc., etc. Just like we eat these cookies or biscuits, Britannia biscuits, Good Day biscuits. The name also is Good Day. Have a good day. After eating these biscuits, have a good day. But what are the ingredients of that biscuit that is being made? It's all hidden. You just have to examine the label of ingredients on the packet, Britannia biscuit packet. So many horrible things go into making this Good Day biscuits. All kinds of artificial colors, flavors, stabilizers, preservatives, so many horrible things are put into it. And it is produced in a factory where people work in very, very bad conditions. Not anymore now because they have automatic machines. They cover up very nicely the whole production. So, like that, why I'm telling all this is the mother's womb is a place the third canto describes. We do not know what it is like inside. We've all gone through it, but we have forgotten after taking birth. Almost completely, we have forgotten. So, it is filled with different secretions that are there in the mother's womb. Or even our womb, even our own stomach, there are so many secretions. The secretion of acid for the sake of digestion of the food. Acid is there. There are so many other secretions, pus. And blood always flows through all the different parts of the body. Blood is there. And mucus and some other secretions like pancreatic juice, bile juice. They are not very nice to taste. They don't feel very nice on your skin, on your body. They don't smell very nice. Okay? None of the senses, the five senses through which we perceive things, they are not pleasant for any of the five senses. You see? So, and not only that, not only not it's unpleasant, but it's also very, very painful. It's like if I pour on your hand some gum, you feel very sticky. You don't feel pain when I pour gum on your body, on your hand. But if I pour acid on your body, not only it doesn't feel very nice, it starts burning. There will be an injury. So the child inside the mother's womb, when the mother's digestive system secretes acid, the child has to experience excruciating pain. The acid is not very strong acid, it is dilute acid. It's not very strong. It doesn't burn the mother's stomach lining. It is meant for digesting the food. But the child has got a very, very tender flesh, just developing. Tender flesh. So the acid falls on the very tender flesh. The child feels excruciating pain. Very, very burning sensation. The whole body is on fire. This is one of the descriptions in the third canto. Another description in third canto is that along with that child, there are so many small, small, tiny worms. And those worms, they feed on the child's tender flesh. They bite, 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 bite. Millions of them. They're very small. There are millions of them. They bite the child. And the child is able to tolerate that biting for 7 months because it doesn't have external consciousness. The first 7 months in the mother's womb is kind of protected. The child is protected, that it doesn't have its external consciousness. It's still in a kind of sleeping condition. It's called sushupti avastha. But 7th month, the child gets external consciousness in the mother's womb. And then it starts experiencing the surroundings, the atmosphere is like suddenly there is some secretion of acid. The flesh, tender flesh starts burning. Worms bite, feel too much pain. So Bhagavatam says, millions of these worms, they bite. The child goes unconscious out of extreme pain. Extreme pain. The child goes unconscious. But that unconscious state is not going to last little time to give relief. These are all Maya's techniques of making us feel this world we can somehow adjust and live. So that unconsciousness to give a relief for the child from the excruciating pain, and immediately after little time, okay, over now. You got relief? Yes, finished. That child comes back to the same external consciousness. Again, the worms will bite. Again, it goes to unconsciousness. Repeatedly come back to consciousness because the worms are all there. For the worms, it is their food. It's a food for the worms. So it keeps on biting. It wants to eat a little, just like you want to eat one biscuit, little. You keep on biting, no? Little. Like that, the worms, they keep on biting, taking a little. They are eating, they are just doing their fundamental necessity. They don't have any enmity, they don't even realize they're biting. Right? So that is the experience of birth. And also, that mother's womb is an airtight sack. It's an airtight bag. It's in the Bhagavatam, in one verse, it says, Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke. Kunapa means a bag made up of, consisting of three elements. Tridhatu, kapha, vata, pitta. According to Ayurveda, this body is made of kapha, vata, pitta, three elements. They're not very pleasant things. Kapha, vata, pitta. Kapha, you know, whenever you have some cough or something, then you spit out some kapha, some mucus. So this body is made up of mucus, bile, and air. Mucus, bile, and air. So this mucus is not very, very pleasant thing. It's horrible. Bile juice, also another very, very unpleasant, very horrible secretion. So it is floating in all those secretions. It is bitten by the worms, and it many times feels suffocation, because that is a bag, which is an airtight bag. Airtight bag. So, feeling suffocation, feeling very, very painful out of the biting of the worms, feeling very, very dirty, very dirty. So the child is just praying to the Lord, when can I get out of this place? When can I get out of this place? So 2 months that goes on, that battle goes on. No, 3 months. 7th month, 8th month, 9th month. At the end of the 9th month, the child comes out generally. So 3 months, the child has to suffer. So birth is suffering. So this birth is because of this material body. Just because we have to get a material body, we have to undergo the process of acquiring this body in a process called birth, childbirth, in the mother's womb. So, like this, people don't even know that birth is a misery. But in any case, death is certainly a misery. And that also we forget. Because we are no longer in this body. Whatever happens in this body, not everything that happens in the body we remember, but at least some of the miseries are so very acute that we remember. we tend to remember. But the most acute misery of being bitten by millions of worms in the mother's womb, that we are made to forget by Maya after we come out of the mother's womb. Because it's such a big relief coming out of the mother's womb. The last 3 months in the mother's womb was such a horrible experience that unless we are made to forget, we will never actually accept to live in this world. We will never accept to live in this world. And why have we got to live in this world? In this body? In this body. Why? Because we want to enjoy. We got big, big plans for enjoyment. And those plans for enjoyment can be successfully fulfilled only in this body. In this body. So all this is connected, you see. It is our foolishness that we desire material enjoyment, and that is the very cause of our birth in this material world. That's the cause of our suffering in the mother's womb, the process of birth, acquiring this body. That is the reason why we have to face so many diseases. The body is made in such a way that it is subject to disease. Now, why Krishna could have given a body which would not be subject to disease? No, he is after all expert. He can make any type of body. He has made this body suitable for us to enjoy materially. We are not meant to enjoy materially, but still we want material enjoyment. So he has made this body. Now, if the body has to be made suitable for material enjoyment, accompanying that facility for material enjoyment, there has to be some characteristics which are also not very enjoyable, like prone to acquire diseased condition. The body has to become diseased under certain conditions. Now, these conditions also, they are such that the same condition under certain misconception of ourself or about this world, we think that condition is enjoyable. The same condition under certain other misconception or circumstances, we think it's not enjoyable. Very simple example. If a pin pricks you, it is certainly painful and you don't like it. It is suffering or it is painful. It is not desirable. It's not enjoyment. But voluntarily, they will go if they want to wear some ear ornament. Of course, nowadays they get ornaments which you don't have to pierce the ear. But formerly, at least, they would want to wear a nice earring or something. Then they have to go and get the ear pierced. Now, that piercing is also painful. But then, when the piercing happens, so nice. Why? Because I'm going to be able to nicely decorate my ear with a beautiful earring. I don't know. I have not experienced this, but women can tell. Yeah. But they would have experienced when they were children, maybe. Don't remember what it was like. But at least a grown-up adult has to go through this piercing of the ear for the sake of wearing a beautiful ornament. It's very, very pleasing. Those who like, of course, none of you will be in that category. There are others outside who like to eat fish. For them, the smell of fish is so nice. Like when we get smell of some nice kesari bath being made, you feel very nice fragrance, no, of kesari bath, correct? Like that, those people, those foolish people, horrible people, when they smell some edible fish, they say, Pomfrey. We'll be thinking, so bad smell, horrible smell. We'll be thinking. So the same smell, depending on who enjoys, under some misconception, eating such rubbish as fish flesh, and we think it's horrible, it's obnoxious, it's in the category of stool. Bhagavad Gita says non-vegetarian food is amedhya. Amedhya literally means untouchable. What is amedhya example? We all know stool. Stool is horrible, bad. We don't want to touch it. We don't want to be anywhere near it. Similarly, flesh is also in the same category. Animal flesh or flesh of a fish also is in the same category. Amedhya, untouchable, horrible smelling, not at all to be even considered. Will anybody think of eating stool? But there are foolish people who not only think of eating stool, they enjoy eating stool. So Shastra says for human beings, stool is in the, flesh is in the category of stool. Amedhya. So in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, tamasic food has been characterized as amedhya, untouchable, horrible, obnoxious, is never to be even go near it. But such a thing, tamasic food, those who are tamasic by nature, they like such food. Bhojanam tamasa priyaha. That is described in the Bhagavad Gita 70 chapter. So like that, in this material world, even though we are not meant to get this material body, it is fundamentally defective, full of miseries, but still, because we want to enjoy materially, we have to accept this material body. And because we have to accept a material body which is enjoyable, it is like a package deal. Package deal means you cannot say, supposing something they are selling in a packet, some 10 items or 2 items or 3 items. You say, I want what is in that packet, only that one item I want. I don't want the other items. They'll say, no, it's a packet, sir. You have to buy the whole packet. Like that, if you want a material body, a body suitable for material enjoyment, you cannot avoid the characteristics of the body which is meant for suffering. If you want a body which is enjoyable, but without any misery, without any possibility that it will get diseased, without any possibility of pain being inflicted on the body under any circumstances, such a body is a spiritual body or spiritual form, Swarupa. Of course, nobody wants suffering. Everybody wants enjoyment. But where is such a body which has only enjoyment and no suffering? That is your original spiritual form, Swarupa. So in the Bhagavatam, the definition of mukti or moksha is mukti hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vivasthitihi. Mukti means anyatha rupam, give up all these different kinds of material forms or material bodies. Hitva, give up. Don't aspire for any type of material body. Instead, aspire for reviving, reinstating yourself in your original spiritual form called Swarupa. Swarupena vyavasthitihi. So therefore, real liberation means to actually return to one's original consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So chanting Hare Krishna, what does it do? It revives your original consciousness. You revive your original consciousness. And by reviving your original consciousness, you don't require this material body. Why are we having this material body? Because we are in a material enjoyment consciousness. We are in a material enjoyment consciousness. So material enjoyment consciousness means there is a necessity of this material body. But spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness means you don't require this material body, because then your enjoyment becomes spiritual. Your taste changes. Param drishtva nivartate. You develop higher taste. You develop spiritual taste. And all these so-called material tastes, they pale into insignificance. They become very, very tuchha. Yan maithunadi grihamedi sukham hi tuchham. Prahlad Maharaj describes this sex pleasure and all types of material enjoyment, including sex pleasure, is tuchham. It is abominable, like gutter water. So, when will it become tuchha? When you become Krishna conscious, when you revive your original Krishna consciousness. And the easiest way of doing it, of course, there's a difficult way. Go in this severe cold to Kumbh Mela and take a bath in that Triveni Sangam. It's freezing cold even in the afternoon. So anyway, in that cold, chill water, you have to take bath. But what the Shastras don't say is what I'm going to tell you now here very carefully. Wherever it says, by doing this, guaranteed liberation, by doing something else, guaranteed liberation, by something else, guaranteed liberation. So one of them is taking bath in Triveni Sangam during this Kumbh Mela, guaranteed liberation. But what the Shastras don't say is how long it is going to take to get that liberation. Nowhere in the Shastras, generally it is said, the time is not mentioned. So what happens when somebody takes a bath? You don't have to even go during Kumbh Mela. Anytime you go to a holy place where river Ganga is flowing, you take a bath in the Ganga, guaranteed liberation. That's also told in the scriptures, guaranteed liberation. But when are you going to get it if you ask? Nobody asks this question generally. Because they think liberation means you have to wait till we die. After death. Liberation means after death. That is a mistake. Liberation has nothing to do with death. Actually, liberation has nothing to do with death. Because liberation is not merely getting out of this body, merely getting rid of this body. That's not liberation. Liberation means going to your original consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness is independent of this body. Just like even now, while we are in this body, if we chant Hare Krishna and your consciousness, your mind becomes completely absorbed in chanting, you are going to experience spiritual bliss. And that spiritual bliss experience is not through this body, is not through the mind. It's not because of this material body and mind. It is because of your original consciousness called spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So to experience spiritual bliss, to be in spiritual existence, Swarupena Vyavastitihi, you have to just purify your consciousness. That's all. And that has nothing to do with this body. Consciousness has nothing to do with the body. Consciousness is your own awareness, your spiritual energy. Another way Prabhupada explains, what is consciousness? It is your spiritual energy by which you perceive pain, pleasure, by which you have a perception of different things, by which you have knowledge, ability to know, ability to be aware. That is consciousness. That's the characteristic of the soul. You as spirit soul, I as spirit soul, each one of us spirit soul. So that consciousness has become polluted by material contact, by desire for material enjoyment, by living in this material world and making plans for material enjoyment or trying for material pleasure. We have polluted our consciousness. And that polluted consciousness has to be purified. Has to be purified. So, purification is immediate and very, very powerfully effected through chanting Hare Krishna. Whereas through taking bath in Ganga, through taking bath during Kumbh Mela in Triveni Sangam, that purification is not so effective. What happens? When you go and take bath in the Ganga or in Triveni Sangam during Mahakumbh, you become completely purified of all your material contamination in your consciousness. But moment you come out, again you get back to your old consciousness, material enjoyment, material activities, material pleasures, material, different material things. So again, because of contacting material nature, in order to enjoy taste, smell, or sight, or whatever, you become polluted. It's called Kunjara Shauchavat in Bhagavatam. It's like elephant bath. Elephant is a huge body, big-bodied animal. It has to take a bath. It requires a big reservoir of water. It can't go to a small pond or a small puddle. It can't do that. So it'll go to a big lake, big body of water. And once it enters, it's so pleasing for the elephant because skin is very dry. So it'll nicely splash water over its body, thoroughly cleanse the body, and then come out so refreshed, so nice. But the foolish creature, like we, after taking bath, we have to dry our body, no? So we use some nice clean towel. The foolish elephant, it has no means of drying its huge body. So it will sprinkle dirt, mud all over the body. So Shastra says, what's the use of its having taken a bath? Nicely went and cleansed, but after coming out, again dirtying the body. Similarly, we go to Ganga to take bath so that all our material contamination is completely cleansed away. And it does happen. Merely taking a bath, it does get cleansed. But what do you do after coming out? Stop all material contaminations. You have to become, you have to make yourself immune to material contaminations. So you cannot stop all material activities, material contact, material pleasures simply because you went to Ganges and took a bath. You cannot stop that. So the stopping all material activities, material pleasures happens in the Bhagavad Gita. Again it is said, Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Merely by doing some spiritual practice, even though it may purify you, to remain pure, you have to develop the higher spiritual taste by which you give up all these material activities. You stop seeking material pleasures. You don't chase any more material pursuits. You become situated in spiritual life permanently. Swarupena vivastitihi. And that is the process of bhakti. What does bhakti do? It actually gives you first a little taste of what is spiritual pleasure, what is spiritual existence, what is spiritual beauty, what is spiritual uh, enlightenment, what is spiritual fragrance, spiritual sound, spiritual smell. Everything you get a glimpse of that, a little taste or a small experience, a glimpse of that experience by chanting Hare Krishna. By chanting Hare Krishna. So if you properly chant, you simply have to properly vibrate your tongue, which is not very difficult. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Means you have to properly pronounce. Sometimes while trying to finish chanting quickly, no, this chanting is not going to be effective. So to chant means you have to properly pronounce all the syllables, 32 syllables in the full mantra, 16 words. Hare, Krishna, Rama. Only 2 syllables per word. And only 3 words. Hare, Krishna and Rama. That's all. But arranged in the form of 16 words, Hare Krishna mantra, so that you properly chant. And then you have to hear. You have to hear attentively. Attentively hearing means your entire consciousness has to get engaged in the activity of chanting, in that spiritual activity. So full consciousness, full attention, full consciousness means full attention only for chanting, hearing and counting. Japa means you have to count because you have to do minimum 108 times. And properly you have to do it. Count properly and do it. So you have to actually, full consciousness, you have to vibrate your tongue and say properly, chant properly, hear very, very nicely, full attention. Full attention. Full attention means your entire consciousness will become cleansed. Otherwise, if you give little attention, which you do anyway, you cannot hear or you cannot chant without even giving little consciousness. Any activity you do. So even chanting also, you give little attention when you chant. But that little attention is not enough to cleanse your full consciousness. So you want to purify your full consciousness, you have to give your full consciousness to chanting. You also have to give your full consciousness to hearing. There are 3 distinct activities that you have to do when you chant. You have to vibrate your tongue and say properly, pronounce properly Hare Krishna mantra. You have to properly hear with full attention. Full attention you have to hear. That means your awareness or your consciousness has to fully involve in hearing. You give your full attention, your full mind. Stop everything else. Completely stop everything else. Including the thinking, including the planning in the mind. All that has to stop, completely stop. Now, you cannot abruptly stop. Now, even if you chant once Hare Krishna with full attention, full consciousness, properly, nicely, you become immediately perfect in Krishna consciousness. Permanently become purified. But can you suddenly stop all the activities of the consciousness? Can you give 100% consciousness and say, Hare Krishna? Can you say that? No, it's not possible. Why? Millions of lifetimes you are accustomed to chant or say or do material things with very little attention, very little consciousness. So, simultaneously, we'll be doing many things with our consciousness, in addition to whatever we are thinking we are doing. So that has to stop. It won't stop immediately. We have habituated, developed this habit of simultaneously involving our consciousness in many different things, many different activities, many different perceptions since millions of lifetimes in this material world. So, just one time or a short while, you cannot stop completely your other engagements. So, you have to practice. It takes time. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina. Don't let your attention go towards anything else when you are chanting, when you are doing any spiritual activity. Even this act of taking bath in the Ganga, if you can go to the river Ganga, which you can go, it's not difficult. But when you take the bath, completely absorb your consciousness in that Ganga Snan. Ganga Snan is not just a physical cleansing, it is a cleansing of your materially contaminated consciousness. And that most people don't even know. They go to take bath in the Ganga. They are thinking cleansing means some kind of physical cleansing. No, it's not physical cleansing alone. Of course, physically you can cleanse your body by taking bath. But you have to cleanse your consciousness. How to cleanse the consciousness? By giving your full consciousness to the spiritual activity. So to understand it is a spiritual activity, taking bath in the Ganga. Material activity of taking bath, we know. We do it every day. But taking bath in the Ganga is not like materially cleansing the body while taking bath. No, it is something else. There is a spiritual action. What is that spiritual action? Like in chanting Hare Krishna, what is the spiritual action? You have to give your full attention to nicely, properly, attentively chant, hear, and count in japa. So you practice this. You practice this. You can't every day go and take bath in Kumbh Mela. You can't do that. But chanting you can do because it is no restriction of place. There's no condition. You have to go to Ganga River. No. And it can be done continuously even while you're doing other activities. You can keep chanting anytime you can chant. Anytime you can chant. So practice this. So practice this chanting and then try to give your full consciousness for this chanting. Even if you're doing only 108 times. Just give your full consciousness. Stop all other activities. Stop thinking about other things. Stop planning. In fact, your attention also should not be given to other things that are happening. So it's a practice that is required. So that practice, if you do, then param drishtva, Krishna will give you, when you are able to almost near 100%, sincerely, full consciousness you're given, Krishna will give you a taste even though you're not eligible because you're not able to yet give your full consciousness. Krishna will give you a taste. Once you get that small taste of chanting Hare Krishna, the nectar of chanting Hare Krishna, then you become completely disinterested in all other activities, all other engagements, all other tastes, all other material pleasures. Just have to get that taste, a glimpse of that taste. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us another method of getting that taste of Krishna prema, Krishna bhakti. He says in a nice sankirtan, you just participate wholeheartedly, completely, immerse yourself in sankirtan. It's much easier than immersing yourself in japa. All of you will agree. Kirtan is much more attractive, much more pleasing, much more easy to immerse yourself. So, Sankirtan is also important. Sankirtan is also important because you can very easily immerse yourself in Sankirtan, but you cannot immerse yourself in Sankirtan 24 hours a day until you come to the perfect stage. Not possible. So, with Sankirtan, you have to also do japa. Sankirtan, little time you can try to immerse yourself. But japa, you can do immerse yourself completely 100% all the time, anywhere, any time. It's possible. You have to practice, that's all. So, japa and Sankirtan. And then, in addition to this, there are so many other things you can do, just like you come to the temple. This is also helpful for cleansing your consciousness, for purifying your consciousness. Taking prasadam, having darshan of deities, and then worshipping a picture or deity of Krishna at a home. All these things are meant to purify consciousness. But the primary activity is chanting, hearing, and counting, japa. Japa is the primary activity which is recommended for especially this age, Kali Yuga, that you can cleanse your consciousness permanently and completely get out of this material consciousness, material existence, simply by doing so once, even once. That's all, enough. But you have to practice to come to that perfect stage. I'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.